like you worked for today to make tomorrow better. So whatever that is, like if Gary has a fight coming up, you know, what's the best thing you can get done today for that fight coming?
Don't talk about it. Do it. Right? And the more you sit on those words and think about it, yeah, like how many times do you come up with an idea or talk about things and but you procrastinate, you put it off and tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes next week, or or ideas fade away and you forgot about it. And
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Forward Progress with Paulo Salgueiro Jr. Today, we have a special episode. We're in Cranston, Rhode Island, interviewing Gary Balletto Sr. and Gary Balletto Jr. Guys, thank you for coming on today.
thanks for having us, man.
And we are in, is this the Bat Cave?
It's the Bat Cave.
All right, cool. So I want to start off with Gary Sr. and kind of we'll interject kind of our little conversation here. So, Mr. Balletto, thank you for coming on today. Obviously, everyone around here, probably nationwide, literally probably know the name Balletto, both of your guys' history, what you guys have done and continue to do. But for some of our viewers who might not know, can you tell us a little bit about who Gary Balletto Sr. is, kind of how your career started, what you've done so far, and kind of give us like that little bio pitch for everybody.
Sure. I started amateur boxing in '93, and it was only a couple of months before the Southern New England Golden Gloves at the time. So I started training, not planning on fighting the Golden Gloves. I didn't even know what the Golden Gloves was at the time. And my trainer said, a couple of weeks in, he says, the Golden Gloves are, in January. He says, you should enter it. So I said, okay, never planned on, being pro or anything at the time. So I entered the Golden Gloves, and we won the finals with a 40-second first-round knockout. So I became like a Golden Glove champ in a couple months, when I just started training. So it was kind of, I guess, unusual from what I heard. And I was like, boxing's easy. You just knock people right out. But so after that, I didn't really, plan on turning pro, and it happened fast. Basically, 2 years in, we decided to turn pro. And knowing what I know now, I would have stayed the amateur much longer, just because you need that experience. Without the experience, it's hard to. Experience is number one, no matter what else you have in the game. Preparation is number one. So. But I turned pro. I had a great career. I won my first 17 wins by knockout. I was 17-0 with 17 knockouts. Limited competition, but this is the way they did it at this time. Still today, you fight the easier guys and you work your way up until you get a title fight. And then I ended up fighting guys with good records, and I'd done very well. I won 3 titles. I won a world title in 2003. And then Gary won a world title in 2023, 20 years later. So it was pretty, unique. And he was the same age as I was when I won,
I don't know, you wanted to stay amateur longer, but 17 straight knockouts seems pretty solid for starting off.
Yeah.
Do you remember the minute or the moment that you fell in love with boxing? Like, did you grow up a boxing fan? How did it all start?
No, I was never a boxing fan. I never watched boxing. I just did it.
It's funny. I get my chops busted a lot. I don't watch fights.
Really?
I don't really follow. I don't watch MMA, boxing. I just do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll join in on the big fights when everybody, you know, getting together. They want to watch, you know, an event. So, you know, I'm not paying attention that good, and
Sure. Is it because
not
like,
memorizing the names of the roster.
is it
and
because
all
like
that.
you're a student of it? Like it's like annoying almost like watching because you can't really like enjoy it. It's almost like you're analyzing what's going on. Or?
I think it's just I've never been
I think
interested
peop-
in watching sports of any kind. I've enjoyed playing sports of every kind,
Yeah.
but I never cared to watch it. I always thought the game's meant to be played, not spectated.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And, you know, I think a lot of athletes can relate to that a bit too, but I don't know. I've always been into superheroes and Star Wars and
Sure.
all that stuff. I wasn't a sports
Yeah, I
kid.
was gonna say you'd rather
know.
watch Star Wars as well. I was gonna say.
You know, so yeah, I never really dove into it. So it just never happened. I never sparked an interest. I just do it.
Do you guys remember, like, what got you in the gym then, the first time? What was it that made you want to go to the gym and a boxing gym for the first time, put some gloves on?
Yeah, but boxing is something that I knew my grandfather did when he was younger, and I knew my father did when he was younger. And because my father passed away at 10 years old, I never had the opportunity to have him take me to a gym and learn that. But I knew it was in my blood, and you know, it was something I always wanted to do. I played baseball, football, basketball. You know, we played every sport growing up. And I remember being on a baseball team, and there was a boxer on the team, and I was the pitcher. And I remember thinking, like, I'll kick this kid's ass. You know, like, he's a boxer, you know, so. But I don't know, I went to the gym with my cousin, and we tried it, and I just liked it, you know, and I was good at it, so that's what happened. I kind of got stuck into it.
What about you, Gary? You remember the first time you put gloves on? Or?
I was born in the gym. I learned how to walk in
Yeah.
the gym.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
my dad owned a gym when I was a year old. I was born. So I didn't have a chance at anything else.
Yeah.
You know, this is you know, part of what I am, what I was raised and born into.
Yeah.
Did you
so-
always want to do it? Or was it something like,
I
kind of
don't-
felt like, yeah, like had to? Or you had-
I don't think I ever thought about having a choice. I think it was always just something, oh, that's what my dad does. That's what we do. You know, that's what we're supposed to do as boys growing into men and beyond. We're supposed to fight. We're warriors. That's what our Balletto crest means. That the, you know, the tiger spirit, all that stuff. It was what
Right.
we were meant to do.
And on the other hand, I never pushed him into boxing. You know, I didn't actually want him or his brother, because it's a dangerous sport, you know, and almost guaranteed brain damage, and it's not made for everybody, you know, and
Not if you move your head like this.
Yeah, right. Avoid those
you know, and, you know, yeah, what happens is you usually get all your injuries at the beginning as you're learning, as you're green and you're new. And over time, you know, you learn not to get, and then mainly it was concussions. I had so many concussions in the beginning because I was just trying to hurt somebody, and somebody's going to hurt me back because I'm, you know, leaving myself open.
You remember, both of you guys remember the first time you guys got punched? Like actually, whether it be sparring or outside, what was that feeling like?
I don't remember the first time, but you know, when I remember getting my bell rung, you know, it's not a good feeling.
I used to run headfirst into walls when I was a baby. I don't know.
It's interesting because we were just talking. I interviewed Jamie Clampett yesterday, and we were talking because I always felt like there's like a fight or flight response, right? Like I feel like when you're sparring or whatever sport it might be, football, baseball, the minute you have like that first contact is like, do I stay here or do I get out?
Yeah.
Right? So I always, when we're talking about boxing, I was always curious about that first time you get hit. What goes through your mind, right? Is it, or like if any fight, when you guys finally get that first punch that lands on you, what goes through your mind? Is it like, here we go? Like, what's going through your mind mentally for both of you when you guys are fought and are fighting?
You go first.
Well, I don't know. I think it's just like, you know, you ask somebody who files papers all day, you know, what's going through your mind when that paper's, when paper's printing or you run out of ink. Goes through your mind is I just put more ink in the printer, right? So same thing, is, you know, they throw punches here, what goes through our mind is, okay, it's here, I'm gonna move this way. You know, you're just focused on what you're supposed to do to play the game. Right? Just like any other sport, somebody's playing baseball, that fastball, 90 miles an hour is coming at them, and they're like, all right, I see it coming. They're not thinking, oh, what if that ball hits me? What if it, you know, what if I miss? They're just thinking, how do I accomplish what, you know, the task at hand? And I don't think it's any different. I think it's more unusual to the average person because this is, you know, a very niche sport compared to the rest of them, right? Not a lot of people enter combat sports and compared to soccer, baseball, basketball, all that stuff. So, you know, I think the thought, you know, of getting punched and being in a fight to most people sounds a lot more barbaric than it really is. When, you know, when you're on the inside of this game, you understand that it's a game more than it's a fight. And you know, you don't always have any bad intention or ill will toward who you're competing against. It's just the game, and it's what we sign up for. So yeah, I think that's like, you know, the difference between fighters and you know, the average person thinking, oh man, getting punched must be terrifying, but it's completely normal once you're in it. Right, that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree to answer, Gary. But I think, you know, once you get hit, you're thinking, how am I going to defend myself next time? You know, how am I going to keep my hands up? Am I going to move my head? Am I going to take that chance and swing first? You know,
The task.
Yeah.
Thinking tactically.
Right.
Good stuff. So our show, Forward Progress with Paulo Salgueiro. So we like to talk about motivation, leadership, making forward progress in life. So I like to talk a little bit about some losses and some wins, because I think you know, that common phrase, you know, we learn a lot from our losses, but I also think we also learn from our wins too, right? How we got there. So I want to start off with a couple with Gary Sr. about some losses. Your first, so you do 17 wins by knockout. So you had 17, and then your 18th was your first loss.
No,
Or
first. That was the first time I went the distance.
That's right.
But my first loss I was 25-0, and it was against Michael Clark. Michael Clark was an amateur national champion. He was a 2-time world champion challenger. He only had 2 losses on his record. It was 2 world titles, the losses. So, you know, it was a step up at the time, and I think it was the right opponent. I just fought him the wrong strategy. I ended up losing a 10-round decision, but I won the last 3 rounds of the fight. You know, and I almost knocked him out in the 8th round. So it was, you know,
it was like the good old days when you had 15 rounds.
You know, you know, if this was a 12-round, I would have won.
No.
Yeah.
So like after a loss, like what goes through your mind? Like when they raise their hand, like what goes through your mind?
Oh,
Are you
I
annoyed?
was
Are you pissed?
I was so devastated, like disgusted for a long time. And because, you know, you make it to that level, and this is every fight's important like that, though. Everyone is important. If you lose to somebody that's not as good, if you lose somebody at the top, you know, you just miss that, you know, that big payday which everybody fights for, you know. And then, you know, I made a comeback, and I had a great comeback. After, I'm saying a comeback, it was only 1 loss at the time, but I had, I don't know, like 6 to 8 fights in a row, all on national television. I was lucky enough because they had, you know, that ESPN when I was fighting in the middle 90s to the middle 2000s, and I was able to fight on ESPN 12 times, you know. So I was, you know, they say 3 times on TV, you're pretty known, you know. So I was known.
Does it almost motivate you more after a loss? Like you want to train harder?
Yeah, I think so. It did. Yeah, it did.
What about you, Gary?
I don't go in there without accepting the possible outcomes, right? So, yeah, if I lose, it's it's like that's too bad. I worked hard for this, but at the same time, that's what we sign up for, especially in a game with this high stakes and this dangerous. I know I do my best, and if I make a mistake, I learn from it. But at the end of the day, I got so much to be grateful for. I have a hard time stomping my feet or wasting any energy being upset about a loss, because there's only, it's done. There's only now what to do next. I have a great wife, 2 beautiful kids, and great friends, a gym, a business, and at the end of the day, I don't have enough to hang my head low about. Even after a loss, it's just part of the game. It's what happens. I explain that it should feel no different than when a football team loses a game. They don't usually win every single time, right? And if you are, you're not testing yourself against the right opponents, and you're not, you're not getting far enough into the career to have those losses, right? Those are all part of the game. And there are those outliers out there that, like Khabib and those guys who. But then again, there's also great matchups that, never happened with certain fighters like that. And it's, it's just all part of the game.
Both of you have both fought at the high caliber level, both champions. What does it take to be a champion? Does it change through time? For Gary Sr., what takes a champion when you were champion, and is it the same characteristics later on in life, or kind of like what led to you becoming a champion in terms of traits and the ethic, the work ethic? What was that like?
I trained like the Rocky movie, I was like
Rocky IV?
Yeah,
Yeah, all right.
like Rocky IV, the better one, when he really started
Running up the mountains.
Yeah, but I always train hard, and looking back, if what I would have done different was I would have learned more. Forget about just being I was in great shape, and that was what helped me overcome or beat a lot of the opponents that were better than me.
Sure.
But if I had to do it all over, like I said back a little while ago, a pro boxer should have 100 amateur fights. Gary only had 10, 12 fights, amateur. He turned pro. He's
and then I turned pro and went in MMA.
He turned pro in
with
MMA
no amateurs.
with no fights, with no amateur fights at all. So, it depends on the person. Everybody's a little different, but he was able to make up the experience. You can make up the experience with sparring.
Sure.
If you spar 100 times before you turn pro, you know what I mean? That's the difference. Not 100 times, maybe 300 times, something like that.
Sure.
You're getting the same experience, but you're not getting that experience in front of a crowd, and it's totally different in front of a crowd. So you need those matches, and you need as many as possible. If you're from Cuba, those guys fight every week. We just had a couple guys come down here for sparring for Gary, and they have over 200 amateur fights apiece. And you wonder, why are they so good? That experience, it's just natural for those guys. And me, I only had 20 amateur fights before I turned pro, and it wasn't enough to put me to that level.
I feel like it was pretty solid still, though.
Well, I did well.
Nothing can replace experience,
No.
Sure.
but there are smarter ways to approach training and other ways to build that experience level. I didn't have a lot of amateur fights, but I've had thousands and thousands of rounds of sparring and training, and it's all how you're focusing when you're training, what you're practicing, what you're learning, how you're thinking, what your mindset is going into it, and you know, I spar with guys all the time who have hundreds and hundreds of amateur fights, and more often than not, I'm more relaxed than they are, and more comfortable, and they would think, you know, that I have had as many amateur fights as they have, and when they find out I have only had, you know, a dozen or so, you know, they're like, wow, how are you so relaxed? That's great. You know, and it comes from a mindset and a practice of being able to be calm under pressure and calm in tense situations, right? And it's a virtue that can be practiced and applied to just about anything. It doesn't just have to be about fighting. But I think we live in a time where everybody's very quick to blame and accept this word called anxiety, right? And, you know, and I'm not knocking them, and I'm not saying it's not a real thing, but it is something that can be overcome. It is something that can be trained to learn how to relax under pressure and handle a situation as efficiently as possible. You know, and that all comes from a mindset. It's practicing stronger virtues. You know, and I think if more of that mindset was applied into combat sports than rather than that old school Rocky training like you used to do, and
Right.
you know, just be stronger, go harder, go faster, right? The older you get, especially in mixed martial arts as a competitor, you start to find out how fragile we really are, right? And you know, I've trained through so many injuries, and you know, this recent fight I've done was, I think maybe it might have been the only fight I've ever gone into without an injury, some kind of minor injury at least, right? You know, and my focus now is, it wasn't on getting a ton of sparring, it wasn't on getting a ton of hardcore conditioning and training, and you know, the focus was just dieting, getting the workouts in, but when my body needed rest, I took it. You know, and it was about getting to the fight uninjured, getting to the fight on weight, and just making sure I'm in shape. You know, and the rest of it is all mental training, all focus and low impact and that kind of stuff. And it, you know, I think a lot of other combat athletes are figuring this out across the board. And you know, I've seen some other you know, big name fighters speak on this and say that, you know, they don't even do hard sparring anymore and things like that. And I think this is a discovery that's going to start to grow within the sport in the next decade or so, and you're going to see a lot more longevity with fighters. We're already starting to see fighters competing, you know, well into their 40s nowadays in MMA, right, which is so physically demanding on your body. And you wonder, how do they do that? Well, there's a trade-off, right? You can't train like Rocky anymore.
Ah, it sounds like he's knocking the old school training, Gary. I don't know.
Well, I've done it, right? It's always how I've done it. It's what I've always known. And over the past, you know, handful of years, I've started to really figure out that there's a smarter way to do it. You know,
he learned how to relax, you know, in the battle, I think. And you notice he talks kind of like a psychiatrist too.
do I do that?
A little bit, I think so. But that's smart, because you gotta, you know,
I gotta stop doing that.
You have to be no. The fighter that has the edge is the smarter fighter.
Sure.
You know, and it's a different kind of smart. Like a fighter's IQ is different than a regular IQ. Just knowing, you know, how to take your guy apart, and you know, he's done well with that.
You know what's interesting? You mentioned that after, because your fight just now you just had against Pat Casey was the first live MMA fight I've ever been to. Live fight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was telling your father.
Oh, it's wild, isn't it?
It's awesome. But you know what's crazy? Watching your fight, I left and I went with my buddy of mine and a cousin, his wife. I left. The first thing I said was how calm and relaxed you were.
Yeah, that's cool, man. You took notice of that.
I mean, I'm also like, I probably look at things that probably the average spectator wouldn't either, but because I love sports, and but watching that, I'm like, dude, because like, and I guess everyone's style is different to begin with.
Yeah.
But watching like Pat Casey going back and forth, and I'm like, you're just there, like walking, like ready for it. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, he's so relaxed, and so calm. It's just like,
Yeah.
But it's so interesting when you notice that when you guys speak about that, because I literally said the same thing when we left that fight. But it was awesome to see. But I also, to your point, I think that comes with experience. It comes with sparring.
Yeah,
It comes
yeah,
with being
yeah.
in there, knowing this is
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Yeah, fighting's like dancing.
Yeah.
You don't see it like a good dancer just jumping around too fast. Just gotta be smooth.
Absolutely. So I want to talk. So Gary Sr., you've been an advocate, literally, probably probably argue all your entire life, or pretty much most of it, advocating for all different things, whether it be in the boxing world or outside. I want to talk a little bit about. You spoke about it openly a lot. Your accident that you've had. If you could tell some of our viewers, kind of what has happened to you since post boxing career and kind of some of the work that you've been a part of.
I've been in the building business all my life. General contractor since 1996. So I would say that's my even better master, of not just knowing how to build, but knowing how to build efficiently, and then over
He talks
time,
like he's confused.
over time, and
Just
also
want to get him back.
no, I complimented you.
I'm kidding.
I gotta be a psychiatrist when I interview tenants.
Sure.
Because they all put on an act. It's an act. I can't even believe how the perfect tenant they say they're gonna be, and they trick me.
Yeah.
But I'm getting better at that too. They're not tricking me anymore. But so I got injured in 2013. It was the summer, and it happened in my backyard. Just one Sunday morning, we were playing around. Me and Aiden. He was 7 at the time, and I put up a pull-up bar in the yard for him to exercise on, and he started playing around and spinning around the bar, but the bar wasn't secure that good for that. So I tell him, let me show you how to do that. Dad was a gymnast. You're not spinning around the bar right. And that's the second time I spun around. It just wasn't secure. And I landed the worst way possible on top of grass. So I thought, I'm over grass. But I broke my neck in 6 places. So, it's not the broken bones that, a fighter can, not a fighter, but a person can break the bones and still be okay. But once you bend that spinal cord too far, if you break 1 or 2 vertebrae, this is what I learned. You get a bruise in your spine, it comes back, maybe you're paralyzed for a short time, but once you bend it too far and those nerves break apart, they don't know how to get back together. And that's what happened in my case. I broke 6 vertebrae. 1 vertebrae in my neck didn't break. So I have metal in there and everything. But like I said, it's not the bones that damage, it's, bones can break and heal. It's the spinal cord injury there's no cure for, which is, it's crazy. Bruce Lee had a spinal cord injury back in the 70s, and he's doing the same stuff people are doing today. Like, that hasn't, become a cure for that yet, which is crazy. But what was the original question you asked me?
It was that kind of the injury, kind of the work that you've done. But when you're in the hospital and you hear that, what goes through your mind?
I was crying for 6 weeks straight. I just couldn't believe this happened to me, and it took me time to learn how to adapt to this injury and live like this on a daily basis. And it's been frustrating. It still is today. But I learned how to, the same way you work hard and you train to be a great fighter, I learned how to, you have that same mindset and motivation, whatever you do in life. Usually, if you can be great at one thing, you can be great at a lot of things. And I was good at business. So I've done. I've had more success in my business since I've been hurt than before I got hurt.
And Gary, you were what, maybe senior year, high school, or
I was
graduate already?
18 when
Yeah,
you got hurt.
it was actually the
It's
day after.
2013, but we're the same.
It was the-
You're 29, right?
29.
It was the day
Yep.
after.
2013 was the year. Well, I graduated 2013, but
Yeah.
It was right after your graduation. I think the accident
Yeah, it was.
happened like the week later or something.
how tough was that for you, Gary? Seeing your dad go through that?
It was terrible. You know, I was living away at the time, but I came and stayed at the house with my brother and sister while it happened, and so I had to put on the facade of like everything's okay, you know, Dad's gonna be fine, you know, and you know, was there with them while he was in the hospital, and you know, my mother was with him, so I you know, I had to take on a role of responsibility. I didn't really have the time to panic and have that comfort brought to me. Really, you know, it was just, here's what we got to do now, and you know, and not suffer more in imagination of what hasn't happened yet. But you know, at the time we were told, you know, he might not make it. You know, he had to do that emergency surgery. The surgery turned out went well, so it was just kind of one step at a time. Like, we'll just, you know, adapt as we go. And you know, it was painful. It was stressful. You know, but I didn't really let my mind get there. Of okay, like, you know, we're gonna lose our dad, or you know, he might be paralyzed, or you know, it was just, okay, this is the information, let's go here, let's just focus on the positive and you know, and hope for the best, and you know, got to be grateful, right? We, you know, we still got him.
Sure.
So it, you know, it held true. Just focus on the positive. When you're going through dark times, focus on the positive. Don't suffer more in imagination than reality. It's a big line I think about a lot. You know, it really helps with, you know, not getting stressed and overworked about things that haven't happened, right? And, you know, when they do happen, you're going to have to deal with it anyway, right? But, you know, a lot of times things don't go as poorly as everybody imagines, you know, and
Sure.
often we suffer more thinking about the outcomes that, you know, that are our fears, right? But if we practice not doing that, we get through things like that, and that's how I did it. Yeah.
Gary, what motivates you as a person? What motivates you? You know, just everyday life. What motivates you?
Yeah, I think my children motivate me, honestly, and this is like a special time for me too in my life. Just watching him and them doing well and succeeding, and you know, I think that's what we all want for our kids.
What motivates you, Gary?
My kids,
Yeah.
but it's not really. It doesn't really come from a place of motivation for me. It's just it's more like I've appointed myself these duties, and I'm responsible to see them through. You know, I wouldn't really call myself the most motivated guy in the sport, right? I just kind of approach it as, I'm going to do my best. Here's what I'm going to set out to do. This is my job. This is my mission. This is my duties, and I'm just, you know, I'm never going to not do my best at something, and I trust myself with that. And I think that's part of why I can be as relaxed as I can be about, and you know, stressful situations and fighting, and is because of that mentality, right? Of just, you know, I kind of take that pressure off myself and just go, okay, whatever happens is going to happen. Let's not stress about it. Just like I was saying with the, you know, that other topic, and just, you know, trust the process and trust myself, and you know, things will work out one way or another. I'll find a way.
Sure, sure. Gary, I wanted to ask you. So you've you've done a lot too in the world of advocacy. You did started a foundation, done a lot with the YMCA. Can you tell us a little bit about some of that work that you've been a part of?
Yeah, of course. So after my injury, you do physical therapy. It's like a standard thing that it's like automatic after you come off an injury like mine. I'm a C5 quadriplegic. So I went to therapy, and I went to physical therapy for almost a year. I went 3 days a week, and I was kind of like training like I was gonna get better, like I was training for a fight almost. But there was no real improvements besides, you know, staying strong and learning how to use the muscles I have to, you know, for everyday living. So after the year of me going to physical therapy, they said, you know, insurance doesn't pay anymore. You know, there's nothing else we could do for you. And I was thinking at the time, like, well, what am I gonna do for exercise? You know, I've been working out my whole life, and you know, I can't go to a regular gym. I can't, you know, I can't get in the machines. And so I learned about this gym. The name of the gym is called Journey Forward. It's specifically built for people with spinal cord injuries, and it's an amazing gym. I went to this, you know, multi-million-dollar facility. It's in Canton, Massachusetts. I loved it, but the only thing I didn't love about it was $100 an hour to work out, to use that gym. So even if I could afford $200, 2-hour minimum, so it was a $200 a day. Even if I could afford $200 a day, it's just not right. It doesn't make sense. Any able-bodied person can go to any gym anywhere for under $50 a month.
Yeah.
You know, so how is that fair? So they had like fundraising programs. They were like having it was a non-profit, but you know, but they made a profit.
Yeah, you're talking what, like
All
5 days a week?
nonprofits make a profit.
Yeah.
You're talking like that's $1,000 a week.
Yeah,
If you're working out 5 days a week.
it doesn't make sense. So,
It's crazy.
so that's when I decided. I spoke to my friends about it, and I said, I'm going to open up a gym in Rhode Island. It'll be the first adaptive gym in Rhode Island. And not only are we going to open a gym, we're going to make it free for everybody. I mean, I found a way to do that with the YMCA, which made the most sense. So not only do we have the facility, I handpicked all the best equipment, what made the most sense, what was most useful to me and everybody else economically. And we had staff. We hired staff to run it, to assist the people with the spinal cord injuries. Today we have 77 members at the gym. You know, it's really a sight to see. You know, and
That's really cool.
made a lot of people happy. You know, I had families tell me thank you for this priceless gift, you know. And right now it's the cost of a YMCA gym membership, like normal. And if you can't afford one, you know, we pay for it for them.
That's the Cranston Y, right?
Yeah.
Is that the Cranston YMCA?
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yep.
You've also, like I was reading online, so you were also part of like starting the union, well, trying to start like a union for boxers too,
Yes.
right, at that time? What was that like?
Yeah, that's another thing that I always thought it was unfair. Like baseball, football, basketball, they all have organizations where you actually receive pensions and everything else, and insurance. You know, you have some kind of security at the end. Boxing doesn't have that. And after 2 years of trying to put this union together, and it wasn't just me, I was just the New England representative for JAB, which was the Joint Association of Boxers. So we had over 3,000 signatures of fighters that agreed they would like this to happen, but in the end it didn't.
Every fighter would like that to happen.
Yeah.
Seriously.
We deserve health insurance.
Well, yeah.
We're
Yeah,
putting our health
literally.
on risk more than most.
I know, and
Yeah.
I mean, you can't fight and not have health insurance. So, you know, I've always paid for my own health insurance, you know, throughout my career. But a lot of fighters, you know, weren't able to do that. Now it's different, you know. Now everybody gets health insurance, but yeah, and we came to a roadblock at the end because there's different promoters, different times, different dates, different amount of fights per year. It's just not the same. When you're trying to put, like, to qualify, say you need 3 fights a year, and this many years. There was just so many pieces to it. It didn't work.
That's not. I don't. Is it it's still like that
Yeah.
today?
Mm-hmm.
Both for MMA too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So for both of you, what has been your biggest life lesson that you've learned through either sports or boxing, MMA? What's been some of like the most that you feel is like, because I've talked to a lot of friends of mine, and I always say we learn a lot through sports that we don't learn in a classroom.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have to learn through life experience, but I feel like we learn a lot in sports, whatever.
Yeah,
maybe in
yeah,
the
yeah.
field,
You're
in
right.
the
That's
ring.
true. That's totally true.
Whatnot.
Yeah,
I'm just
if,
curious
if
how-
I sat here and brainstormed all the benefits of training, you know, in particular with combat sports, you know, but sports in general, the discipline, the you know, the self motivation, especially in particular with combat sports, you know, it doesn't have in common with most other sports is you're on your own, right? You don't have a team to back you up and all this. Everything's on you. You know, and I think all those lessons really teach you, you know, how to have that self-discipline, how to have that drive, and how to be tough, right? Because life ain't easy, you know, and you got to be tough. You got to be able to roll with the punches and take the hits and still keep driving forward, even when you feel like you can't anymore, right? And you got to find that ability within yourself to keep driving on. And I think, you know, combat sports teaches that lesson, you know, the hard way, but the most, you know, the most concrete way anybody can learn is through hardship is how we get stronger. Diamonds are forged under pressure. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned through sports is, you know, or combat sports and a fighting career and all that is we're tougher than we think. We just have to be willing to take the hits if we want to reap the reward, right? So that I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
What's been your biggest life lesson that you've learned through sports, Gary?
Going back to what you said originally, you know, statistically, athletes do better academically than non-athletes. You know, so it definitely goes together. I even tell my younger son all the time, Aiden, you cheated through school. You got your high school diploma. I don't know how they gave this to you. You can't do this through sports. You have to put the work in.
Sure.
You know, it's the same thing. I said it's the same thing. And it's the same thing when you're coming to work with Dad, because you work with Dad now. You got to put the effort in to work if you want to, you know, grow and be better and learn, you know. So it all goes together. No matter what you do, whatever you put your time and effort into, you're gonna do great. And you know, sports seems to like it's more of a love for most people that play a sport, and then because of the love of that sport, you know, it makes them want to be better.
I feel like too, it's like you see firsthand through sports, like hard work paying off, for the most part, right? Like, do you work hard and lose sometimes? Yeah, sure. But I feel like sports, you always see firsthand, like if I do this the right way, I get that reward after. And I feel like I don't know. It's interesting because I always like talking to some of my buddies. We always talk about sports and what we've learned through it, and I don't know. We just, whether it be like discipline, time management, like perfect example of athletes getting higher GPAs and whatnot. I never understood why people always say like, oh, the jocks are dumb or people who do sports are dumb. I'm like, dude, they have higher grades than all the kids who aren't playing sports.
There's different kinds of intelligence, different forms of intelligence, and you know, just because some people don't do well, you know, especially with kids, right? Like young boys, teenagers, we're all going through it, right? We're becoming men, and our attention span is about this big, and you know, we want to move, we want to do things. Sitting still in a classroom isn't for everybody, but you know, but everybody's got an intelligence in some kind of way, except my brother.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I know. We're over here roasting
he's
him
not
right
even
now.
defending
He's
himself.
a perfect example
That's
of
why we
that, though.
wanted
When
him here.
he's so intelligent with what he thinks about and what he cares about, you know.
Yeah.
And he struggled in school, you know, and I think, you know, especially with it starts from youth, you know, they start off, you know, full of energy and all this and that, and we're being told, no, you can't do that, sit still, you know, pay attention. And it's like, you know, it's tough to learn that way sometimes, and you know, that's where that you know, ADD or ADHD, that stuff like kicks in, you know, and they say, oh, I can't focus, I can't do this. You can, but it's just what you can tell you know, make yourself interested in.
Exactly.
Right. I think it's obtainable for everybody to figure out what, you know, what way they want to educate themselves in, and what they want to be intelligent in, you know.
I got 2 last questions, and I'll let you go. I know
Yeah.
you got stuff to do. So a fun question I like to ask everyone: who's on your Mount Rushmore of fighters?
Fighters. My pop's got to be on there because, right?
Oh,
that's
yeah, dude.
that's why I'm a fighter, right? And you know, of course, it's got to be the same as most people's. You know, like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, and
I get one more.
ooh, I get one more. Oh man, I haven't thought about.
You can toss an
Big.
MMA guy in there. Or
We got to toss an MMA guy in there, right? There's got to be. Not everybody's favorite guy lately, but I think he's the greatest to do it. I think he's the you know, the GOAT, unarguably. It's John Jones.
John Jones. All
John
right.
Jones. You know, people don't love him right now. You know, he's going through his own things, but that his build, his timing, his movement, his striking ability, his wrestling ability. I don't know if we'll ever see another John Jones again. You know, he's phenomenal. So I got to give the last spot to John Jones.
All right.
So Pops, John Jones, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali.
Solid 4.
Yeah. That's mine. Everybody's is gonna look a little
Yeah,
different.
exactly.
That's mine.
All right, Gary Sr., who's on your Mount Rushmore fighters?
I like the Toro Gotti, you know.
Sure, yeah.
But more in the hopes to fight him, and which I didn't get the opportunity, but I almost got Mickey Ward.
Oh, really?
That last fight before Gotti and Ward fight, they weren't coming to an agreement on the terms of the contract.
Oh, okay.
So Mickey Ward was going to fight me his last fight.
Oh, no kidding.
And I was 25-0 at the time. This is before the Michael Clark fight.
Yeah.
And they gave me good offer for the fight, and I was excited. And I was telling everybody, and then they made their deal, so he's not fighting me now. So that's what happened. And you know, I just felt like, you know, Mickey Ward was he was a guy I know I could beat because I've been in the ring with him.
Yeah.
You know, I love him. I think he's a great fighter.
You still want to smack him around a little bit.
I just felt like I had his number.
Yeah.
You know. You know. Yeah, I like you know, punches.
Sure.
I think there's so many fighters, you know, on that list, so it's hard to pick and choose.
It's so hard, right?
Yeah.
It's tough because
There's so many great
different
fighters. You
nerves,
feel
so
bad
many-
not to mention, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, there are a few names
Yeah.
that always stand out above the rest, you know.
I mainly watch guys in my weight class. Like Oscar De La Hoya was in my era. You know, I really admired him. Sugar Shane Mosley.
Yeah.
I never cared for Mayweather, and I still don't. But I know he's a great fighter.
Yeah.
I fought 3 of the same opponents as Mayweather. On my record, we have 3 of the same. We share 3 of the same. And I knocked out one he only went the distance with. So.
I think it's a style that annoys me, to be honest. Like, I don't know, like, I know boxing's changing and everything, but it's just, I feel like the concept of, and it's smart, right?
It's a
Avoiding
smart, yeah,
punches.
it's a smart
But
way
for
to
me,
do it.
I'm just like,
But yeah, it's
like, I
not
like
the most
ballers, I like
entertaining. Yeah.
throwing, you know, but cool. So we always like to wrap up with one of my favorite questions is, if you had to give a piece of advice to anybody, whether it be athlete, you know, dad, mom, brothers, whatever, on how they can make forward progress in life, what would that piece of advice be for them?
Ooh. I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I think you worked for today to make tomorrow better. So whatever that is, like if Gary has a fight coming up, you know, what's the best thing you can get done today for that fight coming up? And, you know, for tomorrow and the next day and the next day, you know. I told Aiden he's going away for a week. He's got a fight the 23rd of March, 3 weeks away. You're leaving for a week. Get a day of sparring in today. So he called for the sparring this morning, but he waited too long. So then the kid said he can't do it today, but he can do it next week, you know, but he's not here all week. You know, little things like that. And I think same thing with, you know, working, you know, earning money, you know, you make all the hard work today so tomorrow's easier, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest words that stick with me a lot, and you hear this a lot from older people, right? Who are you know, nearing the end of their life, and their final words are usually, and my wife's grandmother said this to us too, when, you know, when she was on, you know, passing, and you know, and I've heard it from a lot of wiser older people, that, and the line is, don't talk about it, do it, right? And you know, the more you sit on those words and think about it, yeah, like how many times do you come up with an idea or talk about things and you know, but you procrastinate, you put it off, and you know, oh, tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes next week, or you know, and or ideas fade away and you forgot about it, and you know, there's no better thing than action, right? Don't talk about it, do it. Just do it. Don't put it off, do it. And I think that's the biggest thing for success in anything is take action, do it, get things done. One small task, one small accomplishment at a time, they add up, they multiply, they build. You know, and when you look back at it, you'd be surprised at how much you built after just taking a few actions. You know, once you got the ball rolling, you know, it can go anywhere.
Absolutely. Gary, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for
Gary
having me.
Sr.,
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Pleasure. So nice talking with you.
Likewise. This is great. Obviously, best of luck, man. 2 belts, more to come, hopefully. And,
Yeah.
You know, so it's been a pleasure, and thank you for all you guys do and continue to do for not only boxing but also stuff in the community. It means a lot. And then
Absolutely.
for our viewers, you do lessons here, classes here, everything here. So
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
the
we-
name or socials?
This
How
is-
can they get in touch?
Yeah,
with
this
you?
is Balletto Advanced Training Center, the BAT Center, and we have classes 5 days a week. We're a 24-hour gym. You can find us on Instagram, Balletto Advanced Training. We have a website, BalettoAdvancedTraining.com. We have a great environment here. A lot of great people in the room. We have a lot of fun. It's not as intimidating as you might think. Step into combat sports. It's a world everybody should have a little piece of. And yeah, hope to see you guys in here.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Forward Progress with Paulo Salgueiro Jr. Again, it's been a pleasure with Gary Balletto Sr. and Gary Balletto Jr. Thanks for tuning in.